The Awakening. Admiral Helena Drake stood at the observation deck of the EFS Prometheus, her weathered hands clasped behind her back as she watched the massive fleet assembled before her. 300 years of preparation, of hiding in the shadows of distant nebulae and forgotten star systems, had led to this moment. Humanity's return to the galactic stage was about to begin. "Admiral, the final reports from the reconnaissance drones are in," announced Captain Victor Torres, his dark eyes reflecting the starlight as he approached. "The Zethurian Empire continues to expand their borders. They've already conquered 3 more systems in the past month alone." Helena's jaw tightened. The Zethurians, descendants of the same alliance that had forced humanity into exile centuries ago, now ruled nearly a quarter of the known galaxy. Their arrogance had grown with their territory, and like their ancestors, they treated the legends of humanity's might as cautionary tales for children. "Show me the latest intelligence," she commanded, following Victor to the tactical display. The holographic map illuminated their faces with a soft blue glow as it revealed the current state of the galaxy. Red markers indicated Zethurian strongholds, while green dots highlighted potential human allies species who had also suffered under Zethurian expansion. "Their defenses are formidable," Victor noted, zooming in on a Zethurian fortress world. "But they've grown complacent. Their shield configurations haven't been updated in decades. They believe their technological superiority makes them invincible." Helena allowed herself a small smile. "Complacency kills, Captain. While they've been celebrating their dominance, we've been evolving. Our ships may look primitive to their sensors, but appearances can be deceiving." The doors to the observation deck slid open as Commander Natasha Wung entered, carrying a data crystal. "Admiral, Project Phoenix is complete. Dr. Harrison's team has successfully integrated the quantum phase technology into all fleet vessels. We can now bypass their strongest shields without detection." This was the advantage Helena had been waiting for. Humanity had not spent their exile merely hiding. They had been watching, learning, and developing technologies that would give them the edge they needed. Their ships might appear to be relics, but they carried weapons and defenses that would shock their enemies. "Send word to all fleet commanders," Helena ordered, her voice carrying the weight of centuries of preparation. "Operation Lazarus begins in 48 hours. We strike at the heart of their frontier defense network, the Helios Nexus." Victor's eyes widened. "The Helios Nexus? Admiral, that's their most heavily fortified outpost in the sector. They have over 50 capital ships stationed there." "Exactly," Helena replied, her eyes fixed on the holographic representation of their target. "When we destroy their supposedly impregnable fortress, the message will be clear: humanity has returned, and we are not the same species they tried to erase from history." Throughout the fleet, preparations intensified. Engineering teams led by Chief Marcus Reeves worked tirelessly to fine-tune the new quantum phase systems. Special operations units under Colonel Dante Rodriguez rehearsed their boarding protocols. Medical bays, supervised by Dr. Alina Petrova, stockpiled supplies for the casualties they knew would come. In her private quarters later that night, Helena reviewed the historical records of humanity's exile. The images still burned in her mind: Earth cities in flames, colonial worlds reduced to ash, millions forced to flee into unknown space. The Zethurian Empire's predecessors had feared humanity's potential, our rapid advancement, our unpredictability. Instead of facing that fear, they had chosen to try to eliminate it. But humanity had survived. In the dark spaces between stars, they had rebuilt, reproduced, and remembered. Each generation had carried the weight of their history, the promise of return. Now, after 3 centuries, that promise would be fulfilled. "Admiral," Victor's voice came through the comm system. "The fleet is reporting ready status. All ships have completed final checks. We await your command." Helena closed the historical archives and stood, straightening her uniform. The weight of millions of displaced souls, of countless sacrifices, rested on her shoulders. But she had been prepared for this moment her entire life, as had every officer and crew member in the fleet. "Signal all ships," she commanded, her voice steady and clear. "Begin jump sequence. Remember your training, remember our history, but most importantly, remember why we fight. Not for revenge, but for justice. Not for conquest, but for our right to exist among the stars. As the massive fleet began to move into position, Helena returned to the observation deck. The sight of hundreds of ships, from nimble frigates to massive dreadnoughts, moving in perfect formation brought a sense of pride she couldn't suppress. Each vessel carried a piece of humanity's legacy, each crew member a guardian of their future. The stars stretched and distorted as the quantum drives engaged. In moments, the fleet would emerge near the Helios nexus, and the galaxy would learn that humanity was more than a legend. They were a force of nature, returning like a storm that had been gathering strength for 300 years. "All ships report ready for combat jump," Victor announced, standing at attention beside her. "On your command, Admiral." Helena Drake took one final look at the assembled fleet, humanity's hope and strength made manifest in steel and determination. "Execute jump. Let's remind the galaxy why they feared us." In a flash of quantum energy, the fleet vanished, carrying with them the future of humanity and the beginning of a new chapter in galactic history. The legends were about to become reality, and the Zethurian Empire would learn that some fears are better faced than forgotten. First contact, last warning. High Marshal Xerxen of the Zethurian Empire stood before the massive viewing screen in the Helios Nexus Command Center, his scaled hands tightening around the ornate staff of his office. The deep space sensors had detected an anomaly, but the readings made no sense. Hundreds of ships had appeared from nowhere, their signatures unlike anything in the Imperial database. "Impossible," he muttered, his secondary eyes narrowing as the data streamed across multiple displays. "These readings suggest primitive human-era technology, but the energy signatures." He turned to his chief scientist, Vira, whose tentacles were dancing across multiple holographic interfaces. "Explain this." Before Vira could respond, the communications officer's voice cut through the command center. "High Marshal, we're receiving a transmission from the unknown fleet. It's in ancient standard." The language of the long-lost humans. Xerxen's scales shifted color slightly, betraying his unease. "Put it through." The voice that filled the command center was clear, confident, and carried the weight of centuries. "This is Commander Marcus Vale of the Earth Fleet ship Retribution. You occupy territories stolen from sovereign species. You stand on foundations built from the ashes of our worlds. Surrender the Helios Nexus, or we will take it by force." Laughter erupted across the command center. Human ships, ancient technology against the might of the modern Zethurian Empire. It had to be some desperate ploy by the resistance movements. "Launch the defense fleet," Xerxen ordered, his voice thick with contempt. "Show these pretenders why the Empire rules the stars." Aboard the EFS Retribution, Commander Vale watched the Zethurian ships moving into attack formation. Their movements were precise, disciplined, and completely predictable. 3 centuries of unchallenged supremacy had made them inflexible. "All ships execute Battle Plan Omega," Vale commanded. "Remember your training. They expect outdated tactics. Show them how humanity wages war." The human fleet split into 5 distinct groups, a maneuver that seemed to expose critical vulnerabilities. The Zethurian commanders took the bait, dividing their forces to exploit what they perceived as amateur mistakes. That's when humanity revealed their first surprise. Lieutenant Commander Raven Black's voice crackled across the tactical channel. "Quantum phase drives engaged. Ghost Squadron, commence Operation Phantom." 20 ships simply vanished from sensors, their quantum phase technology rendering them invisible to Zethurian detection systems. They reappeared inside the Zethurian formation, their supposedly primitive weapons unleashing devastation at point-blank range. "Impossible," Xerxen roared as the first wave of explosion lit up space. "They're ships. They're passing through our shields as if they don't exist." Vale watched with grim satisfaction as the battle unfolded. Humanity had spent centuries studying Zethurian tactics, analyzing their technology, and developing countermeasures. Every human ship carried weapons specifically designed to exploit weaknesses the Zethurians didn't even know they had. Second wave, commence attack, Vale ordered. Show them what those primitive rail guns can do. The human ships fired in perfect synchronization. Hypersonic projectiles, enhanced with quantum phase technology, passed through Zethurian shields like they were mist. The impacts were devastating, each shot finding critical systems with surgical precision. On the Helios Nexus, panic was spreading. Vyra's tentacles trembled as she reported, "High Marshal, they're not using energy weapons or plasma torpedoes. These are kinetic weapons, but they're phasing through our defenses. Our shields are calibrated for energy attacks." Xerxen watched in horror as his fleet was systematically dismantled. The humans fought with a brutality and precision that defied everything he knew about warfare. Their ships moved like predators, striking from impossible angles, using maneuvers that should have torn their vessels apart. "Launch the Titan-class dreadnoughts," he commanded, his voice shaking. "All of them." 6 massive warships, each the size of a small moon, emerged from their docking bays. They were the pride of the Zethurian fleet, considered invincible. As they moved into position, their weapons charged, preparing to unleash enough firepower to vaporize a planet. Vale's response was quick and decisive. "All ships, execute maneuver Thunder Strike. Lieutenant Commander Black, you have tactical command." Raven Black's voice was cold and professional as she coordinated the attack. "Ghost Squadron, target their primary power conduits. Strike teams Alpha through Delta, prepare for boarding action. Remember, we're not just fighting for victory, we're fighting for justice." The battle that followed would be remembered for centuries. Human ships danced between the massive energy beams of the Titan-class dreadnoughts, their quantum phase technology allowing them to appear and disappear at will. Each strike was precisely calculated, each maneuver building upon the last. From his command center, Xerxen watched his invincible fleet crumble. The humans weren't just fighting a battle, they were delivering a message. Each destroyed ship, each successful tactic demonstrated just how much humanity had advanced during their exile. "High Marshal," his communications officer called out, panic evident in his voice. "We're receiving reports from across the sector. Human fleets are attacking multiple strategic positions. This isn't just an attack, it's an invasion." As the last Titan-class dreadnought erupted in a spectacular explosion, Commander Vale opened a channel to the Helios Nexus. "High Marshal Xerxen, your fleet is destroyed. Your defenses are broken, but this is only the beginning. We've spent 3 centuries preparing for this moment. Tell your empire humanity has returned, and we will reclaim what was taken from us." The message spread across Zethurian space at faster-than-light speeds. The impossible had happened. The myths were real. Humanity hadn't been destroyed or driven to extinction. They had been waiting, watching, and preparing. And now they were unleashing 300 years of pent-up fury upon those who had tried to erase them from history. As the Helios Nexus fell to human forces, Vale sent one final message to Admiral Drake. "Phase 1 complete. The galaxy now knows humanity is no longer a legend. We are their reckoning." The storm unleashed. Deep within the captured Helios Nexus, Dr. Thomas Reed moved through the alien archives with measured steps, his cybernetic eye scanning and cataloging thousands of data streams per second. 3 weeks had passed since humanity's devastating first strike, and the Zethurian Empire was reeling. But Thomas knew better than anyone that a wounded empire was at its most dangerous. "Another encrypted database, Doctor?" asked Lieutenant Freya Winters, her combat armor gleaming under the archive's pale light. She stood guard while the scientist worked, her enhanced reflexes ready for any surprise Zethurian security measures. "More than that," Thomas replied, his organic eye widening as his cybernetic counterpart decoded the data. "This is their historical archive, the true record of why they feared us so much they tried to wipe us out." The holograms sprang to life around them, showing scenes from 3 centuries ago. Human ships, crude by modern standards but innovative for their time, pushing the boundaries of known space. Human colonies spreading faster than any species before them. And most importantly, human adaptability, the trait that had terrified the old empire most of all. "They saw us as a virus," Thomas muttered, his hands moving through the data streams. A species that could take any technology, any concept, and improve upon it at an unprecedented rate. They feared we would eventually surpass them all. Aboard the flagship Prometheus, Admiral Helena Drake received the transmitted data with grim satisfaction. "They tried to kill us because we learned too quickly," she announced to her assembled command staff. "Now, let's show them what 300 years of learning in exile has produced." The war entered a new phase. Across the galaxy, human fleets struck with increasing sophistication. Captain Diana Frost, commanding the stealth carrier Shadow of Dawn, led devastating raids against Zethurian supply lines. Her ships would appear from nowhere, their quantum phase drives allowing them to bypass the most sophisticated detection grids. "The art of war isn't about fair fights," Diana would tell her crew. "It's about striking where they're weakest when they least expect it." Her tactics proved devastatingly effective, as entire Zethurian supply convoys vanished into the void. The Zethurian response was swift and brutal. Supreme Overlord Konks, ruler of their empire, declared total mobilization. "These human vermin think they can emerge from their holes and challenge us," he roared to his assembled war council. "We will show them why we are the supreme power in this galaxy." But the Zethurians quickly discovered that fighting humans meant facing an enemy that never fought the same way twice. When they fortified their supply lines against Diana's raids, they found their main battle fleets ambushed by Commander Vale's task forces. When they concentrated their forces to counter Vale, Admiral Drake's main fleet would strike their now vulnerable core worlds. Meanwhile, Dr. Reed made another breakthrough in the captured archives. "Admiral," he called Drake over a secure quantum channel, his voice tight with excitement. "I've found something. The Zethurians didn't just fear our adaptability, they feared what we were about to discover." The data showed fragments of ancient research, human scientists from 3 centuries ago on the verge of unlocking something revolutionary. "They attacked us not just because of what we were," Thomas explained, "but because of what we were about to become." This revelation spurred humanity's research teams to new heights. Dr. Reed led a coalition of scientists, working to reconstruct and complete the work their ancestors had begun. In secret laboratories throughout human-controlled space, they began piecing together the puzzle that had so terrified their enemies. The war intensified. Zethurian forces, led by Fleet Marshal Ixrin, launched a massive counteroffensive against human-held territories. "We will burn every planet, every station, every ship until these pests are eradicated once and for all," Ixrin declared. But humanity had prepared for this moment. Admiral Drake unveiled the next phase of their strategy, Operation Stormbreaker. Human ships, now equipped with enhanced quantum phase technology, began appearing simultaneously across multiple systems. The Zethurian military found itself fighting an enemy that could be everywhere and nowhere at once. "They thought exile would weaken us," Helena transmitted to all human forces. "Instead, it forced us to evolve beyond anything they could imagine. We learned to bend space itself to our will. We turned their greatest weapons into our greatest opportunities." The battle for the Centauri sector proved this point dramatically. When the Zethurians deployed their newest weapon, a massive energy web designed to trap and destroy phase-shifting ships, they found themselves facing an enemy that had already adapted. Human vessels simply shifted through dimensions the Zethurians didn't even know existed. "Impossible," Ixrin raged as another fleet was decimated. "How are they advancing so quickly? These tactics, these technologies, they're developing faster than we can respond." The answer, as Dr. Reed discovered, lay in humanity's greatest strength, their neural adaptability. During their exile, humans had developed ways to share knowledge and experiences instantly across vast networks. Every battle, every encounter, every discovery was immediately analyzed and adapted into new strategies. "We're not just fighting them with ships and weapons," Thomas explained to Admiral Drake. "We're fighting them with the combined intellectual and creative power of our entire species. Each engagement makes us stronger, while they remain bound by their rigid hierarchies and fixed tactics." But even as humanity pushed their advantage, Diana Frost noticed something troubling. The Zethurians are pulling back, she reported after another successful raid. Not retreating, but consolidating. They're gathering their forces around something in their core systems. Dr. Reed's analysis of the archives provided a chilling answer. They're protecting something, he revealed. Something they've had since before our exile, something they're terrified we'll discover. Admiral Drake knew they had reached a critical moment. The next phase of the war would determine not just humanity's future, but the fate of all species in the galaxy. As she prepared to launch the most ambitious operation of the conflict, she addressed her forces with words that would be remembered for generations. We've shown them that humanity cannot be erased. Now we'll show them why attempting to do so was their greatest mistake. Hearts of Steel. Lieutenant Commander Orion Wright stood in the shadows of the Zethurian capital city's ancient archives, his quantum stealth suit rendering him invisible to both organic eyes and electronic sensors. Around him, 4 other members of Shadow Team moved with practiced silence. Major Grace Hunter, their combat specialist, Tech Sergeant Kai Patel, their systems expert, Lieutenant Nova Chen, their xenobiologist, and Corporal Marcus Cruz, their demolitions expert. Security grid mapped, Kai whispered through their neural comm system. They've tripled their patrols since the war began, but they're still following predictable patterns. The mission to infiltrate Zethara Prime, the heart of the Zethurian Empire, had been months in planning. While Admiral Drake's fleets kept the enemy occupied across multiple sectors, Shadow Team would uncover the secret the Zethurians were protecting so desperately. Movement ahead, Grace reported, her enhanced senses detecting the approach of a patrol. 3 guards, heavy armor, neural disruptors. The team pressed against the crystalline walls, their suits adapting to match the exact molecular structure of their surroundings. The Zethurian guards passed within inches, their bioscanners sweeping the corridor but detecting nothing unusual. They're scared, Nova observed through the neural link. Their biochemical readings are off the charts. Whatever they're guarding here, it's got them terrified. Orion led the team deeper into the facility, following the data path Dr. Reed had extracted from the Helios Nexus archives. The further they went, the more ancient the architecture became, until they found themselves in sections that predated the Zethurian Empire itself. These structures, Kai transmitted, his scanners analyzing the walls, they're not Zethurian, this technology is older, much older. They reached a massive door covered in symbols that none of their translation matrices could decode. But it wasn't the door that caught their attention, it was the material it was made from. Impossible, Nova breathed, her specialized sensors confirming what they were seeing. This is Terran steel, Earth-made from before the exile. Before they could process this revelation, alarms blared throughout the complex. But they weren't for Shadow Team, something else was happening. Priority alert to all forces, the announcement echoed in the ancient halls. Human fleets have breached the outer defense grid, all units to battle stations. This is not a drill. Admiral Drake's running interference for us, Orion transmitted. Let's make it count. Kai, get that door open. While the facility erupted into chaos above them, Kai worked his magic on the ancient Earth technology. It's responding to human DNA, he reported with surprise. They built this door to open only for us. The massive portal slid open with a sound that hadn't been heard in 3 centuries. Inside, Shadow Team found something that changed everything they thought they knew about their history. By all the stars, Grace whispered as they entered a vast chamber filled with suspended animation pods. Inside each pod was a human, hundreds of them, preserved in perfect stasis. These aren't just any humans, Nova reported, her scanners identifying the occupants. These are the leading scientists, engineers, and military minds from Earth, the ones we thought died in the initial attacks. Kai accessed the central computer, his cybernetic interfaces connecting with systems that had waited centuries for human contact. They didn't try to destroy us, he transmitted, his voice shaking as he read the data. They were afraid of what we were about to discover, so they preserved our best minds until they could understand and control the power we were about to unlock. Above them, the battle for Zethara Prime raged. Admiral Drake's forces engaged the Zethurian home fleet in what would become known as the Battle of the Seven Suns. But the real war was being decided in this underground chamber. "Look at this," Marcus called from a sealed section of the facility. Inside, they found research labs where Zethurian scientists had spent centuries studying human innovation, trying to understand and replicate our capacity for advancement. They couldn't do it, Nova realized, analyzing the failed experiments. They couldn't understand how we make the intuitive leaps that drive our progress. That's why they kept these humans in stasis. They were hoping to eventually decode our cognitive processes. But the Zethurians had made a crucial mistake. The stasis technology they used, based on ancient human designs, had done more than preserve bodies. It had allowed the minds inside to continue working, dreaming, solving problems across 300 years of enforced sleep. "They're not just preserved," Kai reported, his voice filled with awe as he decoded the neural patterns from the pods. "They're networked, all these brilliant minds working together in a shared dream space for centuries. They've solved it. They've figured out what the Zethurians were so afraid of." Orion made the decision instantly. "Start the revival sequence. All pods, Admiral Drake needs to know what we found." As the ancient pods began their awakening protocols, Supreme Overlord Conks received the news in his fortified bunker. His worst nightmare had come true. Humans had discovered their own preserved minds, and with them, the secret that could reshape the galaxy. "Shut down the facility," he ordered. "Eliminate everyone inside. They cannot be allowed to wake up." But it was too late. Shadow Team had already transmitted their discovery to the fleet above. As the first pods opened, Admiral Drake received a message that would change the course of the war. "Admiral, we found them. We found our lost pioneers, and they've spent 300 years solving the mystery that the Zethurians feared, the key to humanity's next evolutionary leap." The revelation would set in motion events that would reshape not just the war, but the very nature of human potential. As dawn broke over Zethara Prime, humanity stood on the brink of becoming something entirely new, exactly what their enemies had feared 3 centuries ago. Legacy of Stars. Admiral Helena Drake stood on the bridge of the Prometheus, watching as the awakened scientists were transported safely aboard her fleet. Each revival pod contained not just a preserved human, but centuries of accumulated knowledge and discoveries made in their shared dreamspace consciousness. The Zethurians didn't understand what they had created, Dr. Thomas Reed explained, his cybernetic eye scanning through the data streaming from the recovered minds. By networking these brilliant minds together in stasis, they accidentally gave them the perfect environment to solve the greatest mysteries of the universe. Among the awakened was Dr. Isabella Vega, one of Earth's most brilliant theoretical physicists from before the exile. Her first words upon waking were, "We've done it. We've solved the unified field theory. We know how to transcend." In his fortified bunker on Zethara Prime, Supreme Overlord Conks received the reports with growing terror. "Launch everything we have," he commanded, his scales turning pale with fear. "Every ship, every weapon. They cannot be allowed to implement what they've discovered." The Zethurian Empire unleashed its full might over 10,000 ships, including weaponry they'd kept hidden for centuries. The space around their homeworld turned into a storm of energy weapons and quantum torpedoes. But humanity was ready. Commander Marcus Vale's tactical fleet moved into position, their ships now enhanced with the first implementations of the awakened scientists' discoveries. "All vessels, activate the resonance fields," he ordered. "Show them what humanity has become." The human ships began to glow with an inner light that defied conventional physics. Energy weapons passed through them without effect. Quantum torpedoes detonated harmlessly against shields that existed in multiple dimensions simultaneously. "Impossible," Fleet Marshal Ixran screamed as his flagship sensors tried to make sense of what they were seeing. "They're ships, they're shifting between states of matter." Captain Diana Frost led the counterattack, her vessels moving with impossible grace. "This is what they feared," she transmitted to her fleet. Not just our potential for growth, but the fundamental truth about humanity: we were never meant to be bound by the conventional laws of physics. The battle that followed would be remembered for millennia. Human ships demonstrated abilities that seemed to defy reality itself. They shifted between dimensions, merged with energy fields, and demonstrated complete mastery over space-time. Lieutenant Commander Orion Wright and his Shadow team, now safely aboard the Prometheus, watched as Dr. Vega explained the truth to Admiral Drake. The unified field theory wasn't just about understanding the universe, she revealed. It was about understanding our place in it. Humanity's consciousness, our ability to adapt and evolve. We were always meant to take the next step. As the battle raged, more human ships began implementing the new discoveries. Each vessel became a testament to what humanity had achieved during their long exile, not just technological advancement, but a fundamental evolution in what it meant to be human. Supreme Overlord Conks made his final transmission to the human fleet. "You don't understand what you're doing. There are reasons why species aren't meant to transcend. The galaxy has order for a reason." Admiral Drake's response was calm but firm. "The galaxy has order, yes, but it also has evolution. You tried to stop our natural progression because you feared what we might become. That fear led you to preserve our greatest minds, which gave them centuries to perfect what you were afraid of. The irony would be amusing if it hadn't cost us 300 years. The final phase of the battle began. Dr. Vega and the other awakened scientists, working with Dr. Reed, implemented their discoveries across the entire human fleet. Ships began to move in perfect synchronization, their crews linked in ways that transcended normal space-time. "This is humanity's true potential," Helena transmitted to all forces, human and Zethurian alike. "Not conquest, not revenge, but transcendence. We offer you a choice: continue fighting against the inevitable, or join us in the next step of galactic evolution." The Zethurian Empire's response came not from their leaders, but from their people. Across their worlds, populations that had lived under rigid control for millennia saw the truth: humanity hadn't come to destroy them, but to free them from their own limitations. As the fighting died down, Admiral Drake met with the awakened scientists on the Prometheus's observation deck. Together, they watched as the first waves of transcendence spread across human space. Ships and stations began to glow with inner light as humanity embraced its new understanding of reality. "We never wanted war," Dr. Vega said, standing beside Helena. "What we discovered in our dream space wasn't a weapon, it was the next step in consciousness itself. The Zethurians were right to fear us, but wrong about why. We weren't going to conquer them. We were going to show them that all species can evolve beyond their current limitations." The war ended not with surrender, but with transformation. The Zethurian Empire, faced with the choice between stagnation and evolution, chose to embrace change. Their rigid hierarchies dissolved as their people began to understand the possibilities that humanity had unlocked. In the years that followed, the galaxy would witness something unprecedented: not the rise of a new empire, but the emergence of a new way of existing. Humanity, once exiled for their potential, had returned to fulfill it, bringing with them not conquest but enlightenment. Admiral Helena Drake's final log entry became a testament to humanity's journey. "They tried to erase us from history, but instead gave us the time and isolation we needed to reach our true potential. Our revenge wasn't destruction. It was showing them that the very thing they feared about us was what the galaxy needed most: the courage to evolve." And so, the story that began with fear ended with transcendence. The legends of humanity's return would be told for generations, not as a tale of war, but as the moment when the galaxy learned that the greatest power isn't the ability to destroy or conquer, it's the ability to transform, to evolve, and to become something greater than anyone imagined possible.